if we were sitting in Richmond and the average house of a price was about £2.5 million, and we had huge incomes, and our names were Mrs. Carrie Johnson or Lord Zach Goldsmith, we might genuinely think, what's the problem buying a Tesla? What's the problem getting rid of your old gas boiler and getting a heat pump? But the reality is, you come to Middle England, and we literally are in Middle England here in Stoke, why should these people have to pay a massive price for the government's ambitions to go green?
Well, this idea of cost versus investment, I think, is the big problem here. So it often gets put out that this is going to be a huge cost for people, and there is a lot of money required here. But what we should look at here is, over time, if there was support, you would get this money back. It's an investment if you can get a return on it, but it's a cost if an international company takes away your money because what you're paying on your bills.
I mean, let's think about this. You know, these folk have had their electricity bills lumped with subsidy, 20–25% at times, on their electricity bills. No explanation, no debate, all political parties supporting it. That money's gone to giant wind turbine companies. It's gone to Chinese manufacturers, Danish wind companies. It's employed a few people. But the reality is, it's given us expensive electricity. And I say that because we're in the potteries. You know, we're in one of the places that flourished in the Industrial Revolution. We know those days have gone, but we also know Stoke still has a lot of engineering, a lot of industry. They are paying much higher prices for their electricity than their American or European counterparts. We're not being fair with this, John, are we?
No, but the good news is that energy from renewables is now much cheaper than energy from gas or any of the fossil fuels. That technology has improved. So there is a huge opportunity in how we make our energy, but it's not being passed on to the consumer. You're quite right. There are international firms owning those. We need local people to own these technologies so they can get...
What British companies?
Absolutely. Or even people. I mean, I was involved in a village that had their own wind turbine that over the year produces more power than the village uses. And they get a dividend from that every year.
I mean, I would be convinced that we'd spent all this money, that we taxed all these good people. I might be convinced that it's a good thing if you could promise me that, having gone for wind the way we have, that the lights won't go out this winter.
OK, I'll do it. Because the research that we've looked at, if, and it's a big if, we invest in these people's homes to improve them, that's the key problem here. These people here, 28 million houses across the UK, the building regulations that we've been building to are really substandard. So you can legally build a building that is as leaky as a sieve when it comes to energy efficiency. And we can improve on that. And we can employ people that live here and work here to do that work. And once you've done that, then that much lower amount of energy, kind of a depowering without losing any resources.
All right, we can be more efficient. I get that.
A lot more.
That's logical. It might bring people's bills down in the long run too. I understand, John, and I get all of that. But we're doing all of this in the name of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, which many even now call a pollutant. Carbon dioxide without which plants can't even live. Carbon dioxide, man's contribution to that is 3% of the total amount of CO2 produced in the whole world. Is it, I want to ask you this serious question, is it worth us going through this pain, all the while China are building up to 80 new coal-fired power stations every single year?
Well, it's worth it because every little does help, but also China is terrified at the moment. Yeah, I know they get thrown out, and they have got a tiger by the tail with regards to their economy. If their economy begins to contract, the local people will it'll tear itself apart. So they're being forced to deliver a certain amount of energy in there. But they've just had the worst drought that any country has ever experienced, as far as we're aware, ever. Now, China also has the largest wind program and solar program. They don't want to burn the planet. This is a critical emergency.
Is it?
It is. I mean, debating whether or not this is an emergency is debating whether or not water boils at 100
No. We should be allowed to have an open debate about this. And I think what really cheeses people off is we've not had a proper debate about this. We've had the BBC, the Labour and Conservative parties all agreeing around this, and we want to have a more open debate about it. There's nothing wrong with that, John, is there?
Well, there's nothing wrong with the debate, but you also need to take on the science. The men and women that I've worked with over the last 30 years, these are not fools. They don't want it to be true. How about this? I don't want climate change to be real. I have a family. I don't want it to be real, but it doesn't matter what I want or what I believe. Unfortunately, the science is clear. This is a catastrophe.
Well, even if you're right, and you may well be.
Thank you.
You may well be. You know, maybe I should glue myself to roads. I don't know. And that's what worries me. This level of alarmism is leading to damaged mental health in young people and some of these actions. But even if you are right, John, I'm sceptical Britain can make much difference. But look, I would say to you, John Grant, that you are a sensible environmentalist. We've had a good, open, honest debate, and I think people perhaps have learnt something from it. And thank you for coming on the programme.